Uh,
You're all set, Mr. So have a good evening.
Thank you, Seth, too. So,
It's dug in.
I don't know.
It's dug in because we need Doug to make 4. We only have,
Mr. Doug is here. Mr. Doug, if you want to unmute yourself, I'm going to ask you to. There you go. Hold on here. You do have Doug. He's just not unmuted himself.
He only wants to be half
Hey,
in.
there we are.
There you go.
hi Doug.
Awesome.
Hello.
Thanks, Seth. Thanks. Keep an eye on us. Oh, what? So we have Penny, Doug, Eric, and myself.
At the moment, yeah.
Okay.
We're hoping
And-
for Brendan.
And we're not expecting either Jen or Richard this evening, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we're ready to at least kick the
Count.
ball. So can welcome to the Scituate Conservation Commission meeting for Monday, March 18th. I just got a couple of quick things to read. This meeting's being held virtual as an alternate means of public access pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 and temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You're hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Scituate in accordance with the open meeting law. And number 2, the town of Scituate's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. The Scituate Conservation Commission is committed to providing an environment of respect during our meetings. We ask all members to interact in a polite manner, even when there's disagreement. We value the participation of our community and want all participants, including marginalized and minoritized communities, to feel welcome and respected. And we ask our committee members and all who participate to commit to these standards and to support and respect our community. With that said, we have an agenda. And maybe at the end of the agenda, we could just run by a couple of things of Appleton Field by who's ever wants to comment. Eric, certainly. Any other questions? I think that was the only addition. Jen, do we have any other additions or omissions?
No,
Okay. So
I'll make a motion. We accept the agenda as written and with the add-on of talking about Appleton Field.
thank you, Penny.
You're welcome.
So
Somebody needs to second
Oh,
it.
second that.
thanks, Penny. So for Doug, all in favor, Eric?
Yep.
And Frank, yes. Thank you. Okay, so the public hearing NOI, ANRAD, the first one, Glades Road, North Scituate, revetment, Site 1. Who do we have on for that? And I gotta open that.
yes.
Oh,
We've got a few people. Yeah, they're all here.
let me get that. Open up on March 18th, 2024 at 6 p.m. The Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of the Town of Scituate for work related to repairs to existing shoreline structures of seawall and stone revetments located in North Scituate by Seaside Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the website. Okay. And we have, who do we have for,
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Sean McCarthy.
recognize you?
DPW Engineering.
Oh,
Good evening.
okay.
Good evening, Sean.
Also tonight with me is David Smith, our GZA coastal consultant that's prepared the drawings and the NOI for you this evening.
Sean, before we go, should I open both of these? Do we want to talk about these together or are they different, totally different projects?
Yeah, they're different locations. We were trying to bid them together, only to save costs, by selecting a contractor that would move to each location.
Okay.
Permitting has disrupted that a little bit. There is a site too that you'll be seeing next month. I think we finally resolved, those permits. But
Okay.
we've taken a little different avenue on these prior to opening these, Scituate conservation hearings. We've gone through all the state and federal permitting.
Wow.
So we have all our answers from those agencies prior to you developing, your orders,
Okay.
and closing, so.
All right. Well, we'll just, I guess we can just open this one and then we'll jump to the next one. Or
I see Seaside up on the screen now.
Is
Um,
that the one you read?
I just read Glades, I think. Oh, no, I did read Seaside. I'm sorry. You know what? I'm going to open both of these and then we can just roll from one to the other. All right. I think
Okay,
that's,
baby.
you guys can address them separately, but be kind of the same. So on March 18th, 2024, at 6 p.m., the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of the Town of Scituate for work related to repairs to existing shoreline structures of seawall, ramp, and stone revetments at location North Scituate by Glades Road. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting will be available posted on the town website. Thanks. So you guys can launch it
Great.
in whichever one you want to.
Yeah, I'll turn it over to David. He can better describe some of the, details on both of these projects, but I will be here to answer any questions.
Thank you,
as well.
Sean.
Right, thanks, Sean. If we could go back to the Glades drawing, I was gonna start with that one first. Yep, perfect. So good evening, Commissioners. My name's David Smith. I'm Project Manager with GZA Geoenvironmental, 144 Elm Street in Amesbury. Here representing the town of Scituate on this project, the North Scituate Beach Revetment Design Project, and this is Site 1. And Site 1 is predominantly along Glades Road in North Scituate. This is the project is to address damage that has occurred to these coastal engineering structures as a result of 3 storm events, Nemo, Juno, and Riley from 2013 up to 2018. And then this Site 1 is actually further subdivided into 1A, 1B, and 1C. 1A is the area to the far left of the drawing here on the screen, and that's in front of 62 Glades Road. And that particular area is a stone revetment that is fronting an existing seawall. And then the area just south of that, along that whole stretch of Glades Road down to the access ramp at Glades and Gannett Road, it's about 1,700 odd feet, is what we're calling Site 1B. And then Site 1C is off this drawing, and that's further to the south. It's 125-foot revetment fronting 7 Surfside Road. So these are, this project is all in-kind repair work, as I mentioned, resulting from the storms, those 3 named storms. We are not deviating from the original authorized structures. That's just repairs to existing structures that are out there. And predominantly they're stone revetment repairs. And the colors there represent the different storms, and we've kind of had to isolate this. Well, at least it'll help us in moving forward with construction. So that's the reason for the different colors on the drawing, and the particular storm damage identification numbers are listed in the tables below, a little lower on that drawing, and that represents the limits of work within that sort of colored hatched area. And these are damaged areas that were determined by the town and FEMA back after these particular storms. We had gone out there early in 2020 and verified a lot of this work. And for the most part, it's going to represent, as I mentioned, in-kind repairs to the tow revetment, fronting the existing seawalls. There is also a section of this area along Glades Road to the south of this drawing, where there's a full slope revetment that takes the place of where a former seawall was. And then as you move further south, there's that access ramp. Behind the seawall, as you can see on this drawing, right between the seawall and Glades Road, there's what we're calling the upper slope repairs, which will be performed. And then there's some concrete seawall, isolated concrete seawall repairs, both on the top of the seawall, face of the seawall, and then also that walkway just landward of the wall. So this project is going to involve likely access by a contractor from both the beach area and then also access from Glades Road. We have a total impact of damage, or as far as impact of resource areas, about 53,860 square feet. So that's land subject to coastal storm flowage. So that's predominantly the area of these coastal engineering structures, which is the area landward of mean high water. And then we also have an impact area of about 35,548 square feet. And that represents that dashed black line just right onto the beach, seaward of the existing structures. And that's a temporary impact, and that's going to be for access by the contractor onto the beach to perform predominantly the tow repairs, which is the tow revetment repairs seaward of the seawall. And then we also have Coastal Bank, which in this case is the coastal engineering structures, which is a little over 1,800 lineal feet. We're looking to, as I mentioned, access this from both Glades Road with equipment, and then also accessing it along the beach in that 20-foot path from two locations. One is the access right away north of 62 Glades Road, which is to the left of that drawing that's shown, and then also the access beach opening at the intersection of Glades and Gannett Street further to the south. And that access will also provide access to the area of revetment at 7 Surfside Road. So we're looking to hopefully put this together to go out to bid in the fall of this year. And as Sean mentioned, this being site 1, you'll hear shortly from site 3, which is Seaside Road, and site 2, which will be before the commission, either the next hearing or the one, I think it'll be the one after. And that's an area at the end of Surfside Road in front of 91 Surfside. So all 3 of these sites we're going to try to bid together in the fall as under one contract. As Sean had mentioned, we've obtained other authorizations on this site, and it took a while to get to the point where we're at. But we did get a MEPA certificate, and that was issued in February of 2023, a 401 water quality certificate in August of 2023, Chapter 91 minor project modification to existing licensed structures. That was in July 2022, and most recently, we got an Army Corps permit in December of last year. So with that, I think that kind of explains in summary what we're looking to do with the site. So I'll entertain any questions.
Sorry, carry on.
There it goes.
Okay, thank you. So I guess, well, why don't I start with some members? Penny?
Yeah, I only really have one question. It's great you have all those permits in order. So, the beach nourishment that's going on down the Gannett south, okay, will that affect any of your repair? Cause I don't know how high the sand's going to be coming up. Do you have any idea?
Yes, I do. And the answer is yes, it would affect likely what we're proposing. Unfortunately, when we started this project back in 2020, we had the hopes of performing all this work way in advance of having the nourishment project done.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, with the delays in this project, that's not the case. So, in speaking with Sean, I think we're just gonna see how this plays out as far as the sand nourishment, and hopefully it doesn't disappear and stays place, and all is well come the fall. And if that's the case, we'll likely have to adjust our work limits. But we felt that we would like to at least include the damaged areas in this NOI filing and get approval for it. And if, in the unlikely event that that sand disappears, it'd be at that point, we could at least do the work. We would have 3 years to do this, so, we could certainly try to phase this work if needed, but certainly we don't want to dig through 6 feet of, newly placed sand nourishment to repair some revetment
Right.
that's buried. So we're well aware of that, and we'll have to make the adjustments if needed.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question, Frank. It's just too bad it worked
You're,
this way.
you're muted.
I'm muted. Oh, yes.
I am.
Oh.
Sorry. We heard everything you said, Penny.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you. Okay, Doug?
Well, Penny stole my question.
Hmm.
Probably
Sorry.
through some sort of mental telepathy that she's capable of. So I don't have any other questions. That was exactly what I was wondering, is how that was going to impact the nourishment project, and explain that. It is unfortunate that the timing didn't work out better than that.
It is what it is.
Yeah. But other than that, I don't have any other questions.
Okay. Eric?
Much to both the prior comments, it was more on the nourishment, but maybe a clarification, maybe a lack of understanding on my part. But you said 3 years is like the time window that you have to complete it. Does that mean, say, in 3 years or 2.5 years or 2+ years, whatever happens to be, the sand that is going to be deposited washes away and opens up an opportunity? Would there be a chance to go back and fix the proposed work that was being prevented? Or once it's out to bid for this initial phase and the work is done, that's kind of it?
Yeah, when I mentioned 3 years, I was kind of just looking at the critical path of the order of conditions expiring in 3 years.
Yep.
Where the others are, typically about 5 years. So we'll have to kind of play that by year as we get closer here. There's also the issue, because this is partially FEMA funded, there might be it might be better off just to close this out with FEMA and deal with this at a later point in time. But that'll be, we got a few months, fortunately, between now and the fall, when this would likely go out to bid, or at least get a bid package ready. So we'll have to work that out with the town. But again, I'd like to at least just include this, and then, under this filing, and if we have to, reduce it, then so be it, and we'll deal with that at the when we have to issue the certificate of compliance.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
What I was gonna say, David, FEMA could complicate closing out or leaving a project open. And you're right, it's unfortunate. We've been asking for the sand money for 10 years, and it just happens to come along to Scituate at the same time that these permits are obtained to get out there to do that. So, yeah.
Thank you, Sean.
And I do think Brendan joined.
Brendan, have you caught enough of this to ask any questions, or we can circle back?
I I have been here since the beginning, since the
Oh,
beginning of
great.
this, but I don't have any additional questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Um,
You want to hear the other one also?
yeah, I think why don't we just go through that one and then we'll get comments from if we get any butters or anything. So or maybe I could ask this a couple of things, Sean or Dave. So, I mean, we have the ability to grant extensions. So if you have if your other permits are carried out for 5 years, is that something that you might come to the commission and say, hey, we need a couple more years to? I kind of get the complications. Is that something would be feasible or can? What would?
I'm almost afraid if we have an opportunity to make some of these repairs, we have been repeatedly asking FEMA for extensions due to the delays in the permitting.
Yeah.
They won't look at these until the state says, okay, they're showing what we want to see. Now you can look at them for your parameters and the cost estimates, because this work is 75% reimbursable by the federal government. So we are, all of these jobs coming before you have extensions already existing with some type of timeline constructed and when we're going to do the work. And this just happens to be one project. All the cliffs have projects on them as well.
Wow.
Trying to work through the same things, but it's definitely something we're going to talk about. You know, as David said, we're going to watch the sand. We're not going to go out in the summertime and make these repairs anyways during the season.
Right.
So we wouldn't be looking till bid to the fall. So we have some time to see what happens out there.
I mean, what would be the worst case scenario though, so we have sand in place, obviously you don't want to disturb it more than you have to, but it's going to have a chance to settle in over the summer. Would it be a real detriment if you had to peel some of that back and do the work? I don't know.
I guess we'd have to dive deeper into the plans in front of you, whether it was a toe repair or an upper slope repair that we could still make the repairs to because it's exposed.
I think for the most part, we're gonna do a majority of the work at this site, because I think the nourishment,
Yes,
so correct me if I'm wrong, but Sean, I think the northern limit is between Collier Road, Stairs and Grasshopper, right? And then to the south, I think it would extend in front of 7 Surfside. So it's really that toe revetment within those areas, the access ramp that was damaged that, you know, we were going to replace, and then the area in front of 7 Surfside. But everything you see here in the drawing, in this particular drawing, would be repaired. So I'd probably say at least 75–80% of the project would be completed.
Regardless.
Regardless, yeah.
Great.
Exactly.
Well, I hope the stars line up for you in the right direction. Yeah, let's hear the other piece and then we'll see
where we are,
Okay.
Seaside.
All right. So again, David Smith from GZA, 144 Elm Street in Amesbury, representing the town of Scituate at North Scituate Beach Revetment Design Project Site 3. So this is Seaside Road. This particular project site is a total of about 720 lineal feet, which you pretty much see within the limits of this drawing here. On the left-hand side, in the northern limit, there's a concrete seawall that has a 17-foot return. It kind of juts out from the other seawall to the north of that one, and then it runs north to south about 273 feet. This is a older seawall that's in pretty poor condition. Got damaged from the Riley storm, March 2018. This whole site is damaged from that storm event. And the seawall got damaged, and also the toe revetment in front of the wall on the seaward side of the wall also got damaged. So that's what you see in the hatched areas on the upper part of the drawing, seaward side of that wall. And then as you go south, kind of right at the intersection of Seaside Road and Bradford Ave, it turns into a full slope revetment there, where it meanders down to the south and continues along. And that's about 430 lineal feet, about 20 to 30 feet wide in that area. And then at the far southern limit where Seaside Road kind of comes in, where it meets up with this shoreline and then kind of deviates there to the north. There's also an outfall pipe that got damaged during that storm event. So this particular site, we're looking to do the repairs. Again, it's in-kind repairs similar to Glades. These are prior authorized structures, and we're keeping within the footprint of the existing structures. The full slope revetment, actually both of these particular sites and work areas, we're envisioning that the work can be performed from the land side without the need to access onto the beach in these areas. We feel that equipment can be staged both behind the seawall in that section to the north, with working the revetment there, and also the seawall work, and then the full slope revetment to the southern limit. So this will involve, again, in-kind revetment, removal and resetting, supplemental stone to be brought in to replace stone that had been either disappeared or damaged. And then that concrete seawall, what we're looking to do is replace the top 5 feet of that seawall, which is significantly deteriorated and damaged. And then also we want to extend beyond that 5-foot depth further down to lower into the wall and add a 1-foot overlay to the existing wall. And we've done this in other locations in Scituate before in the past, where we're extending the width of the wall will increase by 1 foot, but the top 5 feet will be replaced. We're going to dowel into the existing wall below that 5-foot elevation, which we are anticipating should be in fairly decent shape, and then extend that overlay down below the revetment limit. So the stone would be removed, the seawall work would take place, and then the stone revetment would be reset. So for this work, the resource areas that are impacted by this is land subject to coastal storm flowage. So we have a little over 32,000 square feet. Again, this is within the footprint of the existing coastal engineer structures above mean high water. And then we have impacts to coastal bank, which is the coastal engineering structures. Similar to the Glades Road site, we have secured prior or authorizations from the other agencies. We did get a MEPA determination. We didn't meet the threshold here for getting a MEPA certificate, but we did get concurrence for them that one wasn't required. We also got concurrence that a 401 water quality certificate was not required at this site. We did get the Chapter 91 minor project modification determination for the existing structure. And we just recently, in January, got the core permit for here. So we've got all our ducks in a row, per se, up to this point.
Good.
I'll take any questions.
Frank, you're muted.
Penny?
No, it looks great to me. I'm all set, Frank.
Doug?
No questions.
Eric?
Just want to suppose with the bid process that you're trying to get all 3 of these with the same contractor, where would this fall in terms of scheduling with regard to the other 2? Or is that going to be determined once the bid process has gone through?
Yeah, we haven't got to that point yet as far as, you know, if these particular sites, you know, the Glade site, this site, and then yet to be before you 91 Surfside, if there's a particular phasing that we need to do, we haven't worked that through yet. You know, it would be one contract, one contractor likely. And, you know, if he's not able to work at these sites simultaneously with equipment and personnel, then we'd have to kind of think about phasing this. And, you know, we're hoping that this would be a fall, kind of maybe a late summer, early fall project. Certainly, we're aware of impacts of the public and the beach and so forth. So, you know, we'll have to kind of take that into account, but we haven't developed a schedule yet.
Okay, I was just curious, just because of the remediation of the wall itself and needing concrete, and if that would be impacted by temperature and seasonality. But all for future determination. So thank you, appreciate it.
Brendan?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Okay. Sean, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I think Dave did a great job.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you got them in your packet, but we got letters from Mass Division of Marine Fisheries on both sites. There was some concerns for a blue mussel at Seaside Road, and there's also surf clams and blue mussel at the Glades Road. I'm sure you guys have addressed those. I think that's all part of your submittal as well. Is there any like special timing for those? You know, sometimes with dredge projects, there's certain times of the year they want to avoid certain areas. Does it come into play much?
So far, we haven't received any sort of time of year restriction from the agencies. You know, certainly with any, you know, coastal work like this, contractor's gonna have to work the tides. You know, they're not gonna be out there in the, you know, 3-4 feet of water or whatever doing the work. They're gonna have to coordinate this. We're not gonna allow them to leave, you know, areas open and exposed, you know, throughout the evening or so forth. You know, they're gonna have to stabilize the site. We don't, you know, so there should be very minimal impacts to any sort of clam species or fish species because of
Okay.
that way we do that.
Okay, thank you. It looks like right now I've touched on members. We have one hand up. We wanna. Lisa, if you wanted to unmute and just you want to state your name and address, please. I think you're on. Can you hold on, let's see if we reconnect you.
Hi, can you hear me?
We got you now.
Okay, great. Thank you. My name is Lisa Terrell, and I'm an abutter to the seawall. I live at 17 Seaside Road in Scituate. Thank you all for doing this great work. Really appreciate it. And I just have some clarifying questions and kind of some questions about the process, since this is a new experience for me. Just regarding the bid process itself, what do you expect for a timeline? From what I heard, it sounds like you hope to put this out to bid in the fall. I'm assuming it's the fall of 2024. So what's the timeline as far as selecting and hiring a contractor, and then when would they start?
Well, the bid is typically out to the public for 4 to 6 weeks. That's after the package and the plans have been prepared. It typically takes about a month to award to a contractor. This would be, in excess of, it would require select board approval. to award to a contractor. At that time, we typically sit with the contractor and request a schedule. Without permits dictating when and how he performs the work, it falls on the contractor to make those determinations. So we'll ask them to prepare a contract. As David said, do they have enough employees to work 3 sites at the same time, or equipment? Or is this going to be a methodical, everybody's at one site, work it through, complete it, now go to the second site? The hard part really for us is because FEMA is paying for 75% of the work, we need to track it that way. Each storm event has a payment with it, and a drawdown with it, so that the note taking on the not for you to worry about, but becomes the headache, so to speak. So as the project moves along, and you know, as David and I talked too about what's happening with the sand in North Scituate, and I know you're a butter here, how we envision the contractor laying it out. A lot of times we don't have the authority to dictate how he does it.
It doesn't sound like it would start until probably 2025 sometime then.
If this isn't selected as his first site,
Okay, all right, just curious. All right, and then I believe one of you had mentioned that there's a 3-year time frame to do the project. When does that time, or I guess when does that clock start ticking? Is that once the permits are all issued, or once the contractor starts working, or a different time?
The Scituate Conservation Commission will hopefully issue an order of conditions approving this project. And that clock ticks when they issue that orders. There is the ability to get request a time extension if needed. But our hope, like Sean had indicated, we've had time extensions through FEMA on all these sites, and it's we don't want to risk having FEMA not issue another time extension on this project. So the quicker we can get this done and wrapped up, the better for everyone, I think. I also wanted to kind of add to what Sean was talking about as far as schedule, is that there might be a chance that we would actually put this out to bid earlier, but maybe not award it or have the contractor start until a certain time.
Yeah.
Because it might be an advantage to bid this in, say, the summer and have the contractors ready to go at a certain point, as opposed to having them start in, say, January or February.
Yeah, great.
So we haven't got to that point yet. It's been a long haul just getting where we're at. So we haven't kind of.
I certainly appreciate everyone perseverance here. Sorry, just 2 more questions. I guess one, my first of those 2 is, and how do you communicate, or how does the commission communicate going forward as these timelines become more known? How do you communicate to the abutters? Will we just continue to get written correspondence, or do we need to be proactive looking on the website?
Well, first off, if we close this meeting tonight, then we have to issue a set of orders. If for some reason there's some unanswered questions or there's an issue and we continue it, we'll continue it to a date that we announced this evening. So I say if the hearing's not going to get closed, that vote will happen tonight as to when the next hearing will be. If we do close it, then we issue a set of orders. Then I would think it would really be onto the town, DPW. You've got an abutters list or something. Sean, do you typically reach out as you get closer on that, or your consultant who makes the neighbors aware?
yeah, in excuse me, a situation like this, the direct abutters would probably get a letter, as well as we would post. I don't know if you're signed up for any of the alerts that come from the select board office or the town administrator's office, or ever watch his Monday morning weekly updates. We try to pass a lot of that information on, so it gets out in various ways to the public. Even a message board may appear a week before they actually start. And that gets conversation going as well. To contact the DPW can speak with me. I'll probably be the closest to the project in terms of following timelines and day-to-day activities for it. And happy to keep you in the loop that way as well.
All right, great, thank you.
Mm.
My final question is just to make sure I understood correctly as far as, what the finished product is planned to look like. So from what I heard was that you're looking to stay within the same footprint of the existing wall. You're gonna, I guess, remove the top 5 feet of the actual wall part of this project and then replace it. And you said it was going to be a foot wider. So is the increase in the width above the road or below the road? And am I understanding this correctly? Did I kind of recap it correctly?
Yes, you did. So it'll be actually both. So it'll be a wider wall. It'll look, with the exception of the spalled concrete and the deterioration, it'll look pretty much like it does now, or
Okay.
the shape.
Mhm.
It'll have kind of a battered slope on the land side, flat top, and that will be 12 inches wider. It will have a curve on the seaward side, that wave return, and then that'll come down, and basically it's going to look like a new wall, but it'll really be just new in the top 5 feet, and then we're going to cover over the existing wall on the seaward side down below grade.
Okay. Thank you all. That's all I have.
Thank you. And maybe it's a little bit early in the game. Have you thought about staging areas for any of those? Yet, Sean?
Yeah, this one's a little tougher. I actually anticipate, like David shows that center dash line, the contractor using one of those lanes, kind of similar to Glades, although we don't have that much room down here. But during the day, during operations, equipment in the roadway, tight to the guardrail that's there. In terms of storing materials and equipment, I don't know of any spot down in this location. And this is all behind Dad's place, right?
Yeah, this is a tough one.
Yeah.
Could you use the parking lot down towards Minot?
Well, it's a long way to go with materials.
No, not the Minot parking lot, but why can't I think of it? The one right there, Egypt Beach parking lot.
Oh, no. That's
On
got
the
new
off-season.
pavement.
Huh?
Yeah, it's paved, Penny, but start dropping big rocks and stuff like that on there.
Oh,
Kevin would kill me.
all right, I'm just trying to help. We'll figure it out.
Okay. Is there, Lisa's got her hand back up.
Sorry, can you hear me again?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Yeah, sorry, Sean, when you said something, you made me think of another question regarding, so the road has really deteriorated in that area. Even this winter, it's gotten much worse. So you're kind of missing a section of road that goes to the not the fence, but the guardrail there.
Yeah.
So I'm making an assumption. I guess I just want to confirm that part of this project would entail like filling that area back in and paving it when all is said and done?
Yeah, I'm looking at the plans now, and Dave, you might be able to help me out. I don't know if they show that much detail.
Yeah,
As
I
of-
forgot to mention that as part of that full slope repairs, where that stone meets up to the road where the guardrail is, there is a, significant voids that have occurred there. So we're gonna also fill that in, with some smaller size stone. There is no, proposed new paving as part of this work. Although if the contractor does, damage the roadway, he's gonna be responsible for it. But, we're limited to really the areas that were identified as being storm damage, right after the storm. So, even though the road, that edge of the road would likely be filled in and that void fixed, but, any new paving wasn't identified, along that side.
Okay, yeah, I mean, if you go there, you're gonna see big chunks. I'm sure you've been there many times. Big chunks of the road that have, come apart. So I would hope that paving can be part of this project, if not coming from this funding source, from a different funding source, I would think even to secure the work you're doing by filling it in, I guess, and logically to me, the paving would help kind of secure that in that location. Otherwise, I'm concerned that it would just wash away at the next storm that comes through. So I would, I guess, ask the town representatives to see if they can collaborate with whatever departments there are to try to get this paved in some manner to make it not only safe for everybody to drive on, but to help secure the work that's being done and all that money that's being spent. Thank you.
Thanks. It's funny that kind of contrary to some of that, though, we look at areas that it's kind of tough to have a hard surface right up against this, like in Minot.
Yeah.
You have the seawall, and then you usually have an area that's stoned or vegetated, and then the pavement, because it comes over and it just accelerates down the road. But I don't think there's enough to do anything else in that location, I would assume. The road really has to run right along
The edge.
the edge.
Yeah,
It
there's
is
not
a-
a lot of room, not a lot of room there.
But it is a good point. If there's a lot of overwash there, that could continue to undermine some more of the road. How does that work, Sean? Is that something after it's repaired, then you've got to budget some through DPW, through paving contracts and whatnot?
Yeah, there's probably a couple of ways we could handle it. We could put it in the contract as an alternate, which kind of separates it from all the other work. You can get a value of it, you know what it's worth, and then if a different funding source needs to be used to pay that piece, it's already been pulled out of the project. FEMA won't get complicated that we paid for something that they're not willing to pay for.
Right.
It's all about identifying the damage the day that it happens. They can show up 2 months later when we walk this stuff and find other things or not see things. It's a timing nightmare.
Okay.
And to do the job right, I understand where she's coming from. If the roadway needs work, and like David said, I don't know how they're gonna, make some of these repairs without damaging what's there for roadway. So we're gonna have to put some type of allowance in, I think, either way,
Gotcha.
however it's handled. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? I'm back to the other project in Minot, and I'm looking at where the ramp is, in a detail section. So it looks like they're gonna continue. there'll be like a concrete ramp at first, and then is there some sort of walk that continues further onto the beach? And then there's stone.
Yeah,
Um,
that's correct. Yeah, that's what's out there now. I'm not sure if you can scroll down a little bit, Jen, the other way. Well, actually, there's a detail sheet if you keep going. But we're,
Yeah.
yeah, right there to the left. Yeah, so there's that concrete, and it's also shown in the photographs that are part of the attachments to the NOI. But it is around 52 feet wide and about 22 feet landward to seaward. And then there's another concrete section that extends off of that, that's 12 feet wide and about 18 feet long. So that has been an area that has significantly been undermined, and has caused that concrete slab to crack. And that's what happened during the storm event. It is also, with the 12-foot width there at that seaward section, it does make for a nice access onto the beach in this location, and it's typically been used for access in prior storm repairs over the years. So all we're doing here is just basically replacing the concrete in kind. That edge of the that 52 by 22 area, that's going to have a deeper extent to the concrete slab, almost like a footing there, and you can see it right to the cross sections to the right. And then we're going to help to improve on sort of the wing sides of that that other section of ramp. We're going to fortify that with stone that's there now, but we're going to remove and reset it and prevent that from being undermined in the future. And then that access ramp, the 18 by 12, will also be reconstructed, and that's going to have a revetment out in front of that as well to help protect it, because you can see at the time we looked at this, the beach was significantly low. You can actually see it by the lower right-hand side of that. What's shown there is that existing grade line. Now, certainly the nourishment work that's taken place has pretty much buried this whole ramp. And I think that was the intent, to kind of have that buried. But, in the event that for whatever reason we're able to get this work done, that was going to be the plan, to rebuild that whole ramp system.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? Jen, any other thoughts or comments?
Nope.
It's good.
I don't have any other things. We don't have anybody else in the audience with any questions.
I'll make a motion if you like.
Go ahead.
I make a motion, we close. Glades Road, North Situate, revetment site 1, and Seaside Road, North Situate, revetment site 3.
Okay, that's a motion from Penny. Do you have a second?
A second.
From Eric, all in favor, Doug,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. And I'm sorry, just when do you think the next applications are coming forward, Sean or Dave?
Next
Huh?
month.
I think we're going to be submitting the 91 Surfside site 2 this week. So I think we're not going to make the next hearing. I believe it's that odd hearing date, I think the 24th.
Okay,
I think that's what we figured this morning.
okay, thank you.
And
Alright,
that's
so-
just a revetment repair on an
Gotcha.
existing wall, smaller project. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So we got a motion, we have a second, and we got a vote, right?
Yeah, we're ready to go.
All right, great. Dave, Sean, thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
nice
you.
evening. Thanks.
You too.
So now, Lot A, Booth Hill Road, they've requested continuance to April 1st, Jen?
Yes, continue to April 1st.
Do you want to skip down and do that now, Frank?
I think, well, that's the next one.
Well, on my sheet, it's not, but that's okay. I'll make a motion that we continue Lot A Booth Hill
Hmm.
Road to April 1st. Somebody like to second that?
Oh, second,
I'll second that, Doug.
Thank
all
you.
in, so Doug, all in favor, Eric,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Great, thanks.
And then
And now-
next is Zero Crescent.
All right, so Zero Crescent, we have, that's a continuation, right?
No,
Oh, this is an open.
Oh, this is the new one.
Yep.
This is the notice.
Um. Did we, wait a minute,
This is a notice of.
no, but should I have opened lot? I didn't open Booth Hill Road.
you're right. You do need to open Booth Hill
Oh, I'm
Road.
Yeah,
sorry.
my apologies. So I've got some notes out of order. Well, let's, it's gonna wind up getting opened and condition and
Continued.
continue, but let's follow the
Okay,
agenda that Penny has.
Zero Crescent.
Zero Crescent. So on March 18th, 2024 at 6 p.m., Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Mary Louise Pitts Bond for work related to the construction of a new single-family dwelling, driveway, patio, landscaping at location 0 Crescent Ave, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the website.
All right, great. Thank you. Can you all hear me? Jeff DeLisi here.
We can hear you, Jeff.
Excellent. I am here in my office with Paul Marabito, and the two of us are on one mic. So just briefly, procedurally, as you guys touched upon, we were here a few months back for a resource area delineation. There was a proposal in front of you where we called the resource area to be the area down by the revetment. That would be the top of a coastal bank. You hired Merrill Engineering, and they have reviewed that. They suggested a second bank going along the contour line 23 up towards the dwelling at 40 Crescent Ave.
Mhm.
And so this plan shows both coastal banks. And what we're showing is the proposal to construct a single family dwelling. The buyers of the property do have some accessibility issues. The concept, in order to meet their accessibility issues, is to have mostly a first floor living space here. So notably, their ask is to ensure a depth of 50 feet. And so we've designed this to have minimal intrusion into the 50, but some was necessary. The house cannot be slid closer to the road due to zoning issues involved with lot width and how you measure lot width with the house parallel to the street. So with that, that's what's in front of you. Paul can speak, but basically right now the lot is entirely disturbed. There's grass all the way down to the seawall revetment, which is a coastal engineering structure. There is some mitigation proposed, which is a 10-foot wide planting strip and a fence to prevent people from moving towards the top of the bank. And there is an aerial photo way down almost towards the back of your packet, the notice of intent packet. And I think it's instructive because it shows kind of the location of this house, this proposed house, relative to some of the locations of other homes in the area. You can see way on the bottom left of your screen, 56. I think it might be Peggotty Beach Road. there recently was a pool constructed, 18 feet, with your approval, from the seawall.
Top of the bank.
To the top of the bank. So anyway, I'll let Paul speak and then you guys can ask questions. We're here to
Okay.
answer them. You do have Stan Humphrey report in there for Stan is a coastal geologist and he's looked at this with the performance standards. He believes we've met the standards and that there's no adverse impact on any resource area. So Paul?
Okay, thank you. As Jeff mentioned, our plan was to locate the house as far forward to the street as possible. The limitations were zoning, lot widths, and setbacks from property lines. There's, the only proposed grading is on the street side of the house. The existing driveway
Right, keep talking.
on Crescent Ave will be used as the access to it. The proposed work on the new driveway to the proposed garage will be constructed of previous pavers. There is a proposed 10-foot wide planting strip along the top of the coastal bank to help stabilize that. The performance standards in the DEP regs are that any work we do within 100 feet of the coastal bank can't do anything that will destabilize the bank over time. Leaving the lawn area in its current location, which is stable, will help. Also, that planting strip will act to provide some wildlife habitat. It'll also be a pollutant attenuator. On top of the coastal bank in its present form is stable. And again, the planning will ensure that it stays that way in perpetuity. As Jeff mentioned, the size of the house is predicated upon the needs of the people living there because of their health issues and their age. There's a small amount of work inside the 50-foot buffer on the right side of the house shown on the screen, and a smaller area to the left side. And again, that's because of the setback requirements from the street and the lot width requirement through the house and the zoning bylaw. There will be a second floor on the house for a few bedrooms, but that'll be smaller in scope than the first floor as ground level. The foundation is proposed to be a reinforced concrete foundation. And the open areas will be reseeded as necessary. There'll be some landscaping around the house as well. Other than that, there's no other proposed changes. I should point out, Stan Humphreys was hired to submit a report, and he outlines how we meet the performance standards and the DEP regs and the local regs for doing work on the coastal bank and the work within 100 feet of the bank. I think with that, I'll end and answer any questions the members may have.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks, Paul. Doug, do you want to start this one? Please.
Sure. So, I haven't read the, in the packet, there's a report from Stan,
Yes, that's correct.
impact report. I haven't read that yet, but I'm assuming that
It's-
he describes no impact, adverse impact to the coastal bank.
Paul, you want to read the conclusion on
He
that?
does. The conclusion is that it's a summary. It says a single-family dwelling project is proposed on an undeveloped lot in a developed neighborhood on Second Cliff. The entire project will be located in the buffer zone to a coastal bank and outside of land subject to coastal storm flowage. There will be no short or long-term adverse effects to the stability of the coastal bank, mostly located further than 50 feet seaward of the proposed dwelling. Pre-existing conditions of the site provide an opportunity for an exception to the 50-foot buffer strip while allowing a 10-foot wide, 140-foot long planting strip to perform the desired resource protection functions and enhancement to the existing lawn area.
So that's the summary.
That's a summary. And if you
Yeah,
read,
that's,
you know, he goes into specific detail how we do meet the performance standards for doing work within 100 feet of the coastal bank, the top of the coastal bank.
okay. Thanks. Oh,
Okay, the other thing I'll point out is there's several homes that are along the cliff on Second Cliff, and some of them are closer to the cliff than this, and others are set back further. But just upon a visual observation of some of them, the top of the coastal bank seem to be holding up very well. They aren't that steep, and some of them do have vegetation on it. Again, this is all lawn area, but we are proposing to put the vegetation down along the lower portion of the property. It's 140-foot long strip that follows the coastal bank. It's 10 feet wide with plantings, so.
yeah, but between the proposed planting, the proposed vegetation, which is these little shrubs and stuff, and the top of the, well, the riprap, the stone part, what is that? Is it just grass or some other vegetation?
It's just soil, I believe. The
It gets really steep right there, and I didn't know.
it is
if
steep,
the-
and that's part of the coastal bank.
Is that stable in its current condition?
Yes.
It is.
Yeah.
By installing the plantings in the area where we are, there's some vegetation out there, but it's very minimal. We're gonna add to it to enhance it, to make it better, and the DEP regs talk about putting plantings along that area of the site in order to provide a more stable environment for the top of the coastal bank. I mean, we didn't see any evidence of the bank being washed out, anywhere above the revetment. That tells us that area is pretty stable, but again, that planting strip is going to enhance the stability of the top of the bank there.
Sure. And there are some mature trees on that lot, aren't there?
Mhm.
There's a few, you can see them in the photographs. The area of the house, as you look at the photograph from the street, there's 2 or 3 trees, they're probably 8 inches in diameter. Those will come down for the location of the house. But other than that, I don't think there's any other trees coming out. That, I mean, if you've seen the site, it's pretty wide open.
Yeah. Yeah,
It
I
is.
actually walk by that site often, but
There might have been more trees there at one time, but they may have taken them down either because they were diseased or dying, or they wanted a better view of the water.
yeah, that could be. All right, I'll let somebody else answer. I think that kind of
Paul,
answers my question.
Paul, just briefly, is there I don't see a fence on this plan, but are you proposing some kind of like small little kind of delineation of the edge to kind of protect people from walking towards the edge of the bank?
We don't show the fence, the planting strip would be thick enough to make sure there wasn't any human intrusion beyond the planter strip.
Okay.
All set, Doug, for the moment?
Yeah, yeah, I'll let
You
someone
can have
else
another
ask a
bite at the
question.
apple if you want.
Sure, sure.
Brendan? Are you good to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like building in the 50, so there's quite a bit of that. I like the plantings, at least the proposed planting strip, but otherwise I really don't have any other questions at the moment.
Okay. Penny?
Yeah, I do have a question of how the house is positioned. Personally, I would like Paul to explain to me why you could not swing it northwest. It would get the back corner out of the 50. You would still have your 8.5 feet on each side. Swing the whole house, and you would have very little in the 50. Paul?
Yeah, what happens when we do that, we also need 125 feet of lot width through the existing house at number 40. That also needs a side yard setback. We also looked at that, Penny, and it didn't work. Again, as I mentioned, this house is as far forward toward the street as we could get it and still meet the zoning setback requirements, as well as the lot width through the proposed house as well as the existing house. The existing house is proposed to stay there, and there's a setback requirement from that as well.
Penny, it's a definite, I think it's a, correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, but I think it's a definitional issue with how lot width is measured.
Yeah, it definitely is, because I don't see what you're saying. I'm a novice, okay? But I personally, I can see 8.5 feet up front, 8.5 feet down in the back corner. And you would still have those if you swung the house towards the northwest, and you would get that back corner. If you're facing the street from the coastal bank, it would be on your right-hand side. You would get that, you could swing that back corner completely out of the 50. So, but you would still have your 8.5 feet on each side from the property lines. You wouldn't be moving the house forward, you'd be swinging it.
Right, but no, you know, you're right, we still have 8.5 feet, but then the lot width is cutting into the existing house lot at number 40. And when we lay out the 125-foot lot width through the front of the house, we don't have the required setback through the house or that open deck. There's an open deck on the existing house, so we need setbacks from that as well. I mean, we
So-
looked.
so
at-
Penny,
we
the-
looked at-
Penny, the way the lot width is calculated is at the front facade of the house. And so you need to have 125 feet in lot width from corner to corner. If you were to rotate the house, you're rotating the corner of the house such that now it's closer to a side yard, and the calculation doesn't work. I think that's the best way I can
Yeah.
explain it.
Penny,
We looked into this
I-
specific issue. It was an issue that Stan asked about, and Paul looked into that in detail.
Okay, all right. All
I-
right,
I just
Go
to
ahead.
help, if I can, I'm going to assume, Paul, you didn't have this house footprint when you created the A&R to create the lot.
That's correct, Doug.
So Penny, for them to do that change, that I've done these before, so you can
Yeah.
see how that's not going to work. They would have to go back and re-A&R,
all right,
reform that lot and change the lot lines for lot 40 as well.
okay.
So
I
it's-
just didn't understand why they couldn't do it. I do now. It's just unfortunate that they couldn't. But, okay. I'm all set, Frank. Move on, Eric.
Eric, it's your turn according to Penny.
Yeah, it's Eric's turn.
So I am curious on, you've mentioned the existing lawn, you've seen it in the photos, the site plan. What measures are going to be taken to try and protect as much of that as possible during construction, excavation of the pad foundation? And then on top of that, unless I'm missing it, is there a proposed location for a stockpile of materials?
So what's the question?
The question is what, I feel like, the question is what are you doing to protect the resource area during construction? And then separately and specifically, do you have an area for temporary stockpiling as you're excavating for the foundation?
No, the plan would be to put the silt sock around the perimeter of the work area, and any soils that are excavated for the foundation to be placed on a truck and hauled away, because we really don't have any area to stockpile it. I mean, if you did in the front of the house, that would interfere with proposed deliveries of the material for building the house. Plus, you don't have that much room up there. When they're excavating the foundation, it's much easier to locate any excavated material right on a dump truck and haul it away.
But the point is you're not gonna be stockpiling materials
No,
in the back of the house,
no,
closer to the,
nothing will be stockpiled on the water side of the house.
and then are you gonna have protection against erosion down?
Yes, there'll be silt sock installed prior to construction.
Right, and I understand that. I see the silt sock line on
Yeah,
the,
we show that.
right, no, I see that. Just in terms of protecting, you know, any of the existing trees, I understand you're gonna have to take some down. But those tree root zones do provide some sort of ecosystem service and bank stabilization. So I was just wondering if there's gonna be protection measures, for the existing trees on the, ocean side of the construction site as well.
I don't think there's any trees on the ocean side or the water side of the proposed house. There's some in the area of the proposed garage, and you can see those in the photographs. There's
Yep.
more to the left side of the house as you're looking at it on the screen, but those are on the adjacent lot for the most part. You know, where the bank drops off.
Okay,
So we-
okay, thank you. It was, you know, just looking at the photos and trying to match it up with what was on the site plan, as best as I could. And I think you explained everything. Thank you.
Anybody? Did I miss anybody?
Nope, your turn, Frank.
Do we have anybody in the audience for this one?
I don't see anybody.
Okay. Few questions. Is this gonna be a full basement, Jeff or Paul?
I'm
I should
not
see,
sure.
it looks like it is, because there's a finished
Yeah.
floor of 39 and a basement floor of 30, so that would tell me that that is a full basement under that house.
A walkout.
Well, I don't know if it's a walkout, but I'm
Well,
just, it's
there's-
gonna be excavated down about 8 feet. I mean, if the
in the front,
the
yeah.
basement floor is at 30, the grade through that thing is about 29 to 30, so
Yeah, the front of the house is at elevation 29 to 33
okay.
over by the garage.
Yep,
Oh, I see it. Okay, so the house towards the seawall, really the excavation would be more for frost wall, because the basement slab's almost gonna hit that grade.
Right,
And then there'll be a full story above that at towards Crescent Ave.
right.
Okay, my concern was excavating out 8 feet, only 34 feet from the coastal bank, but that's not the
Oh,
case.
sorry, no, it's not.
Yeah, it looks like you'd have about 3 feet of exposed foundation in the front of the house.
Right. So is there gonna be more fill? If the
Well, at the left corner of that house, as you look at it on the plan, you know, where some of the small portion of it's in the 50-foot buffer, that contour going through the corner is about elevation 27 and a half. So they'll put 2.5 feet of fill in there for the, you know, for the basement floor, but that'll be surrounded by the wall. We're not proposing any grading up against the wall there. The only grading against the foundation wall is up at the front of the house on the street side.
So you're not showing any fill or change of grade on the backside right now.
No, we aren't.
A tiny bit. There's a retaining wall there, Frank. There's a,
Oh, yeah. Yep, yep.
but
Itty
it's
bitty.
only,
Small wall there.
Oh,
for
I
the-
see. And then there's two little grade changes. They're straight.
Yeah, there's one at 29 there. It'll drop down a foot.
Okay.
They'll walk out of the house at about elevation 29 and a half.
Mhm. So to Eric's point, if we wanted to, you could put a limit of work. You have work for the plant strip, but that could be sort of independent with just sort of a grubbing and planting. But there could be a limit of work placed, say 10 feet from between this house and this
Yeah.
top of Coastal Bank.
Frank, the reason the limit of the work is down by the coastal bank is in the event that they want to put a new lawn in.
Well, I think we should be a little bit more clear about that. I mean, you're in the buffer zone and you're talking about landscaping the whole yard. So that's kind of leaving the door wide.
I mean, that's an existing lawn, you know, that lawn.
That's fine, but it's an established lawn. And what you're saying is by putting that work out there, you're kind of leaving yourself open to do whatever you want to do on that site, which is going to destabilize it.
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is if they want to do lawn work below the 50-foot buffer from there to the planting strip,
Yeah.
I don't see why they can't do it, because that's a pre-existing established lawn area.
I think our concern, I guess, would be that we'd be destabilizing an area between the house and the top of the coastal bank, Paul. That would be more of a concern to me.
Just to be clear, Frank, if that's the concern of the commission and that is a valid concern, you've just made it clear to us, and I think you can make it clear in a condition of approval, which of course we would accept.
Okay. Do you know what's going to happen with the existing concrete driveway that comes out of the back of number 40?
The existing bit concrete drive?
Yeah.
Yeah, we show that to be removed,
Oh,
you know, in the area of the house. And up at the top of the lot, you know, we're gonna install a new pervious paver driveway from the street down to the proposed house.
Okay, so that whole concrete bituminous driveway that goes into the back of number 40 is being eliminated?
No, we aren't proposing to do any work on that lot. If they wanna do something, they may have to come back to the commission. If it's inside your jurisdiction, which it is, because it's within 100 feet of the coastal bank. And you can see the 100-foot buffer on the proposed lot.
But for practical purposes,
Yeah,
that wouldn't be used because you can't access it, right?
yeah.
Right.
So, that's frankly something that I missed because my eye was on the other side. We could take a look at that, Frank, because if you could change some of that or a good portion of it at least into pervious area,
That would be a big deal to me.
yeah, that makes an awful lot of sense.
You mean the existing driveway number 40?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're looking
yeah,
at.
I can't imagine that they're just gonna leave it there.
Yeah. Yep, no, well, I'll take a look at that, and I'll report back to you tomorrow.
Okay, do you see how big an area that is? If we got some area here that's proposed inside the 50, but there's a big asphalt area that's right near the coast, that's pre-existing near that secondary bank. But
Yeah.
if that were removed, that would, in my opinion, be a pretty good
it would make the whole area nicer too.
consideration.
Yeah,
But I don't know where if they're planning on trying to drag a driveway around that house, because it must be a garage under that house.
I don't think so, Frank.
What it is now?
I don't know. I mean, why would the driveway go right up to the house like that?
Yeah,
I-
there is a garage back there.
Yeah?
Yeah, there's double garage doors.
Oh, okay. I didn't think there was, but you're right, because the enclosed porch is above it. I do believe.
I know that our hearing is about Zero Crescent, but
Yeah,
essentially it also
it's all the
has
same.
to do with alterations at number 40.
Yeah, same owner would be buying both properties, okay? The same buyer would be buying both.
Okay,
Uh, so, we'll talk to them about that, but obviously if any work needs to be done uh, to access 40 or for purposes of 40, that's gonna be coming before the commission.
Mm.
It is not something I could verify to you. It's not something that has that we've focused on or thought of, and we need to. So
okay. Um, so I guess maybe if we're gonna be thinking about that, I would also be thinking about like a limit of work that was much closer to the proposed house. In terms of like really destabilizing something, if there's some landscape work or whatever, but to just say we're gonna put the limit of work and the silt sock out at the edge of the coastal bank, I would not be in favor of that.
Frank, I could show the silt sock maybe 20 to 25 feet off the back of the proposed house, in addition to the one at the top of the coastal bank where the plantings are going.
Personally, I'd like to see it a lot closer than that, Paul, to be honest with you. It just,
65 feet.
it's 34 feet from the coastal on the one corner.
Yeah, yeah.
It's 34 feet. If you had, you know,
Hmm.
15 feet tops, you'd have
From the
enough room.
building.
Yeah, from the building, you'd have
Yeah.
plenty of room to work and not destabilize. I mean, that's a big deal. It's all, it's all, um,
Yeah.
the soil's not great there.
Well, could we put that in the orders, Frank?
Well, they could draw it on a plan.
Yeah, they could, but I'm just,
Yeah.
in case they don't.
If you want to make a condition of approval, that's fine.
which we'll submit to the commission.
And keep it 15 feet off the back line of the house. That should be enough room to get some of the equipment around the back if they need to.
Well, you're telling me that the owner's gonna be both properties, so I'm assuming that they'll have the leeway to work around the
Mm.
what I would call the south side of the property.
Mhm.
That is true. Yep.
Does anybody else want to, Doug or
No,
Penny?
that's good. I forgot to mention the driveway back there, because if to access the garage, it seems like there's gonna be a NOI in front of us for number 40. Because a relocated driveway all the way back up the front, it's all gonna be in the buffer.
Right.
So,
Oh, man.
I kind of wish it was on the same plan.
Yeah.
Because there's gonna be some grading around that, and I don't know, maybe it'll go impervious or pervious as well. Maybe that would be good thought going forward on that.
Well, it could be part of it now.
Yeah,
I mean, right now, this is owned by one person.
Yeah.
And they're looking to do this site. So do we want to start to put additional conditions or the stuff that we build into the orders? Or does the applicant come back with a revised plan with these things in place that we can condition?
It would be nice
Honestly,
to
but,
see everything on the plan.
it would, it would.
It's easier to
be,
follow. So this becoming lawn at another limit of work closer to the house.
I mean, honestly, it does give you a little opportunity to revisit that house location a little bit too, that not trying to add extra work to you, Paul.
We've already tried that, Doug, several times.
Well, I'm just looking at that corner that, you know,
Oh.
the corner that's only 8.5 feet off the
Mhm.
house there is kind of pinching you. And I know you didn't know what was going to go in there at the time, but
But I think what you're saying, Paul, if you pivot that house, you don't have 125 feet through the front of the house from property line to property line.
No, I mean, we even looked at
that's
that.
what with the current construction of the lot lines. That's true, Frank.
Right,
But
right,
what I'm saying is it's all under a single ownership now.
right.
If they're going to have to make amends for the driveway, it just would make sense to look at it more comprehensively and make sure that
Sure.
a new driveway is going to fit there. I mean, you can always create easements and things like that, but
Doug, we even looked at adding more area to this lot by taking it out of the lot at number 40. That proposed house is 74 feet wide. And the lot width through the house, the front of the house has to be 125 feet. So that's another 50 feet beyond the house. When we do that, then we start.
oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, in the back of the house too.
No, the street side, so if we rotate that house closer to the street. And we have 125 foot lot width through the front, then we don't meet the required setbacks for number 40. Which is a violation of the zoning bylaw.
Yeah, send me your CAD file, Paul. I'll do it. I'm kidding.
Trust me, we've tried to move that closer to the street for obvious reasons, but. It doesn't work from a dimensional point of view to the point where we can conform to the zoning bylaw.
So the other point that was brought up by Brendan is by doing this, though, we have a corner of this house, actually a couple of pieces of this house that are inside the 50-foot buffer. And I mean, I do view the buffer to the top of coastal bank, especially if it's not like really vegetated, a little bit differently than I might look at 50 feet from a wetland or some other resource area. You know, we know, to these guys' point, most of this has been all grass. And then there's a man-made revetment going down the slope from there. So it's not really much natural.
No, there isn't.
Frank, I guess I'm wondering if look, I'm not on the commission. I don't see a lot of value added. Like, I'm wondering if there could be, say, an area in the vicinity of the project that might benefit from some mitigation where we can kind of maybe make up for it there. I'm just not sure how much you can be able to really benefit from any additional mitigation on this site.
So some potential offsite mitigation somewhere
Yeah,
on the cliff or beach area.
like maybe even over by the parking lot there, there's seems to be a lot of erosion lately. Beach grass or something to that effect to kind of fortify the dune. I'm just thinking outside the box on it a little bit, but
Frank,
Yes, looks like we have Deb on. Give me a chance to regroup my thoughts a little bit. If we can unmute Deb, that would be super helpful.
Hi there.
Good evening.
Just talking about maybe mitigation on this property, what, is there a rationale for stopping the plantings where you did along the secondary coastal bank? Why not extend that all the way to the property line? Common property line with 40 Crescent? There's a gap there.
Right.
I don't know if that's you know, something that might be thought of. And then I just was, you know, listening, and I apologize, but you know, it is a very tight site. And if you're going to be looking at doing construction all just on zero, and knowing that it's a common owner between 40 and zero, is there an opportunity to use both properties during construction? And if so, that goes to the question of, well, maybe we should be looking at them together.
I think that makes good sense, Deb. I appreciate that. I mean, you've got this driveway that goes to nowhere now in the back of number 40. If they were removing material there, that would certainly afford them the opportunity to work and stockpile or whatever. And if
But
that
then
was,
you would want to make sure you've got erosion control around those areas. So you kind of have to look at them together.
Yep.
Might benefit both.
I agreed.
Thank you for letting me
No,
interject.
no, thanks for jumping in. It's, you know, sometimes we focus on just the one piece and I don't know, I had the fortune of looking at the driveway, trying to figure out where that was headed. But that's a good point. There's a little strip there that certainly could be brought up, which would give us a little more planting and whatnot. And then to your point, continuing along, at least with some protection there.
Was there, to Deb's question, is there a reason why you stop the 10-foot wide planting strip where you do as opposed to bringing it to the property line? I'm asking you. This area here is a reason why you did that?
No, there's no reason, no. Well, again, we're trying to make sure that the bank is gonna be stabilized in the future. I mean, yeah, I mean, we can extend the plantings up to the property line on number 40. It's not a problem. That's probably another 30 feet.
All right. So it looks like you guys have a few matters behind us, and we're going to go ahead and incorporate 40 into the revised plan set and give you a concept there. We'll talk to the buyer about access to the rear of number 40 and how that's possibly being planned or thought of. And any, you know, I've been taking notes, but if there's anything else, now's the time.
Well, I think that last piece that we touched on, I think Deb's points were good ones as well. And it looks like you got a little bit to address on that number 40 site, Jeff. But the consideration of some offsite mitigation, I think we could certainly give some thought to that. That's something we could add in, and we'll get back to you with some feedback on that. But Piggity Beach area is right around the corner, and we've done some things there, but I'm quite sure it could use some more. So we'll get back to you on that one.
Okay.
Does anybody else want to add anything before we have a hand up as well?
Where's the changes?
All right, Megan.
Yes, hi, I'm Megan Mahoney. I'm at 45 Crescent, so right across the street here. And I would, you know, I would encourage the board to not go for mitigation off-site here and really push hard on the fact that this is going within that buffer zone. This is an incredibly large house for a very small property. And so I would just, you know, I think that would be very difficult for, at least for the neighbor across the street to accept. But to really consider if there's any other way or a smaller home that would be more appropriate for this location.
Okay.
And also if there's any conditions or anything that would need to be put into place for the arrival of vehicles on the property. There, as was noted before, there's absolutely no location for vehicles to park or to be, you know, for deliveries to occur and so forth. So there are concerns around that aspect of this as well, just given the structure and the location here and just the proximity to the cliff area. But I do appreciate the opportunity to be heard. Thank you.
No, thank you. Well, we do have that. Was there a stormwater required for this lot, Paul or Jeff?
We show the calcs on the plan. The property line goes down to the bottom of the revetment. It's actually the property line is labeled as the mean high water, which is elevation 3.9. It's the lowest line on the revetment. And it's labeled to the left of the drawing on the screen down at the bottom.
Yeah.
What we're doing is taking credit for the voids in the revetment. We're showing that we're assuming that 60% of the riprap is pervious. And that's
How much? What was the percentage of the?
60%.
Really?
5,417 square feet. You can see it on the plan to the left there. And the driveway was 2,300 square feet. That's in the existing condition. That's a total of 7,717 square feet. Then below that, we figure in the footprint of the house, which is 3,564 square feet. The concrete drive, the big concrete drive is 0 because that's going to be that'll be pervious. Then we added in the 5,417 square feet of the existing riprap and the revetment. That's a total of 8,981 square feet in the proposed condition, which is an increase of 1,264 square feet or 16.4%, which is below the 25% threshold. The other threshold is that the proposed drainage patterns would stay the same in that the water's flowing down that embankment and it's getting into the riprap. We aren't proposing to change the drainage patterns on the lot, but the impervious area calcs alone would put us below the threshold of 25%. So that's where we haven't submitted any stormwater calcs.
Just a quick one, Paul. How do you? I mean, I don't know how you would. Just trying to figure out, or maybe Doug can help with that one. How do you figure an impervious area for a seawall or a revetment?
For the riprap? Well,
Yeah.
those are fairly large stones and the spaces between them are sizable. So and that's what, for example, if you had a stone trench with, say, 1.5 inch stone in it, if the trench was 2 foot by 2 foot, approximately 33% of that trench is going to be voids. But that's for the small stones. Here we have a revetment with with the larger stones, that are placed in there, and the voids are much bigger.
Yep.
So we estimated, in the plan, 60%.
Okay. I mean, I can see where a seawall might almost be considered impervious. I mean, even though it has flat surfaces, it's such large areas between them. It
Right.
almost seems
Well,
inconsequential.
The other thing is the water coming on that roof is considered to be clean water. And any water running over the lawn is gonna be attenuated by the proposed plantings. It's stated in the narrative and the report from Stan Humphrey, so the plantings in the lawn area will help with any issues of pollution. But the volume of water that would come off the site is just gonna go into the ocean.
So
Is-
Paul, I'm just gonna interrupt, just because, it kind of goes to the question. I'm receiving a message from the buyer who apparently is listening along, who's indicated that he will be removing. They're pleased to remove the driveway to create pervious area.
And how are they gonna get to their garage?
Doesn't sound to me like they're gonna be driving to it.
I'm just asking, Jeff.
Well,
You might have to put it up top on the right side of the house.
well, that's not being proposed, so.
No. I mean, that.
All right, so yeah, obviously we need to revise the plan, but that's gonna change that calculation.
Wouldn't that be subject of a separate application for 40?
I don't think so, because it's all one property, right? It hasn't been divided yet, Paul, so
No.
the notice in the notice of intent has been, is the perimeter of both properties. It's not, the middle line doesn't exist yet until the planning board signs and, that A&R plan, right? Or did they sign it? No?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they said.
Zoning
Well, it needs to be recorded.
needs to be recorded and yeah, so for purposes of notice, the notice is for both, so we could just revise the plan and show it.
Yeah, the lot the proposed house on has been approved by special permit from the zoning board. That's what we call a 50-foot
And
lot.
the planning board endorsed the plan as well, so, but it hasn't been recorded until the property is conveyed, which is why it's considered right now for notice purposes,
One property.
one property, right?
Yeah.
So it's recorded on the same deed, like it's one deed for both properties right now?
That's correct. Yep,
Okay.
it hasn't been conveyed until we get through this process.
Deb, are you keeping an eye on these guys? All right. I mean, to me, this seems like there's enough that we need to continue this. But I'm just wondering if there's any other information we need to give the applicant before we.
I'll give my 2 cents, Frank. With
Sure.
Deb Keller again, with respect to interpreting the riprap as impervious. I just want to make sure the commission considers that, opening that sort of can of worms.
Yeah.
At future projects moving forward along the coastline here versus, this site, as Paul stated, you have almost all of your stormwater mitigation pretty much addressed, and to file a stormwater permit, I don't think would be that difficult. And then that allows the commission to not open, a topic that could come along down the line and might not have the same end result.
I think, thank you for that, Deb. I mean, one of
Yeah.
the bigger concerns for me on this cliff, it's all pretty much glacial till. We know that the bank has sloughed in a lot of areas further up the cliff, maybe not as much here. But when you add the impervious area of this house and you're saying, well, you're gonna direct that rainwater across the lawn because of the slope, the way this is graded, it's all gonna go towards the coastal bank, which just puts more water going over the bank. Maybe that plant strip should be some sort of depressed, I don't know. I'm not an engineer. but it certainly would be a consideration. Doug?
Yeah, um, it sounds to me like maybe
I'm
we
not
should,
trying to disclude anyone else, but I'm turning
Yeah.
to the engineers.
well, I guess
Surveyor. Well, he's not really an engineer. Sorry, Deb. He's a surveyor.
I play one on TV though. Afternoons right after General Hospital. But I not to carry this on, it's like almost 8. I think we need to continue this. I think we've
Right.
should have given the applicant and Paul enough to think about here, but I think I think everything you say you're saying is valid there. I'm not crazy about the idea of counting of a riprap wall as included in your calculations for your lot area as impervious. I mean, I don't know what's under the rock. It's not pervious.
Yeah.
I mean, excuse me, impervious. Yeah. I get those two mixed up all the time when I'm talking, by the way.
That's why
Oh,
you're not an
And
engineer.
they're diametrically opposed to each other. And so
Okay.
I don't know how you feel about it, Jeff. Do you think you have enough to consider relooking? And I would encourage you to maybe just take a look at that house layout.
We're happy to take a second look at the house layout. We've already looked at it once, and just to be extra sure. And we do have some things to look at here, as is what happens in first meetings. So I think that what we need is a continuance. I have a list going, and you'll be receiving a supplemental submission, and hopefully it'll look a lot better.
Okay.
Frank, if I can add something about using the revetment as an existing pervious area. If we had pervious, if we had an existing driveway that was pervious,
Mhm.
then we'd be using that in our calculations. Again, the property line goes down to the bottom of the revetment. And that riprap to me isn't any different than having pervious pavers somewhere else on the lot. If we have to do stormwater and recharge the increase in volume into the soil, but the only place we could do it is in the 50-foot buffer, which is on the low end of the lot. Because the
Right.
water isn't gonna flow uphill. I'm not crazy about putting infiltrators in that lower portion of the lot. Just because you're taking the increase in volume from the lot, which is primarily the house, and you're gonna recharge it into the soil. I mean, we haven't done any test pits out there, but you're right, it's probably a glacial till. I think we'd be better off asking the commission to allow us to let the water, I mean, the increase in the runoff to flow directly into the ocean.
Well, because I'm only a contractor in the heap here. What I have seen done before is to take that proposed planting area and make it more of a swale than a flat strip, so that it winds up at least holding back some water that goes flowing over. And I'm not sure, because I really don't know, if you just take the seawall out of the equation, either pervious or impervious, how does that drive the bus in requiring a stormwater versus not? Maybe Deb can fill me in on that one.
You know,
I would say that he probably would go over the 25% impervious increase on the lot. Which would then trigger a stormwater permit, but like you were saying, you've got most likely glacial till here. So you've got a restricted soil and you've got a coastal project, so what you'd have to meet for stormwater standards are not as high as if you had great material where you could recharge all of it. And, the proposed pervious paver driveway, if you're saying that's pervious, that's gonna absorb groundwater, up gradient of your house. I don't see why I don't see filing for a stormwater permit as something that's too onerous on the property, and then that would clarify the project and understanding what the impacts would be and how they are addressed, whether it's through, modifying the planting strip, or, you could add, a small recharge, 10 feet, recharge chamber for some roof runoff, 10 feet from the house. It doesn't have to, it's not like you're gonna have, that whole yard would be a recharge system.
Right.
So, but until we see the stormwater design, calculations and permit, we don't know what those could be. And you might be missing out on that for the
Point.
site.
Thank you, Deb. Any other members want to weigh in on this before we gotta move along? It is 8 o'clock.
So do we want to see the numbers with the riprap being pervious instead of impervious? In addition to the other things?
I think that's a reasonable consideration.
And then continue to April 24th?
Sounds good.
Is that our, oh yeah, because we're gonna be on that Wednesday, right?
Wednesday, April 24th.
Because of town meeting, our second meeting in April is gonna be on a Wednesday night.
Yep. Okay, so can I make a motion, Frank?
I hope so.
Okay, I make a motion to continue 0 Crescent Ave to April 24th.
That's a motion from Penny. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
From Brendan?
Second.
All in favor? Doug?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Paul. Thanks, Deb, for jumping in on that. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Interesting.
52 Peggotty Beach Road. That's been continued.
Right, so you have opened it.
Yep.
Oh, they're not going to be on tonight?
No,
No, it's just, we don't have to open it. It's already, it's the next one on the agenda.
yes.
I know I got it mixed up in the beginning, but I think I'm on track now. 2 hours into it.
Okay.
All right, I think I unmuted. Paul?
Yep.
Paul
Yep.
Gunn? Okay.
Can you hear me?
We got you. Thanks, Paul.
All right. So, hello everyone. Just for the record, my name is Paul Gunn. I'm a design engineer at Morse Engineering. Here tonight for the continued notice of intent application at 52 Peggotty Beach Road, which includes the raise and rebuild of a single family house within the 100-foot buffer to a coastal bank. Since this project was last before the commission, a planting plan and list has been prepared by Hawk Landscape Design for the proposed mitigation area. That plan includes native shrubs, grasses, ground covers, and perennials, and also includes 5 conservation posts that have been provided along the limit of the planting area. Regarding the site plan itself, there's been no changes made to the layout or location of the house, the driveway, or any of the patios, but a small revision was made per comments prepared in a review letter by Deb Keller over at Merrill Engineering. This revision just included providing a third profile of the coastal bank to better help in confirming the bank's delineation. This profile is now shown as profile C on the site plan and lies between the 2 original profiles A and B. I believe that's all I have. I'll turn it to the commission for questions and comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Who wants to tee you off on this one? Penny?
Yeah, I really don't have a problem with this. It, no, I don't really have a comment. Moving on, Frank.
Brendan, I'm trying to find this. in my-
Yeah, again, I guess, you know, risk sound like a broken record. I never like anything in the 50 or like putting a pool in there. I know there's a pool next door that we, you know, but I'm not a fan of that one either. I really, I don't know what else to say. I guess I guess that's it. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Um, uh, Doug,
Eric, Doug. You.
Um,
I wasn't here for the first one.
I have trouble remembering. We saw this before.
Yeah,
I think what we asked them to do is come back and give us a more detailed mitigation plan. The discussion was the pool and its proximity to the coastal bank and what would they were offering.
In exchange for that.
Yeah, if I remember right.
And we were waiting for comments about the bank, which that back and forth has happened.
About the location of it, Jen?
Right. I
Or-
think Meryl maybe confirmed that. And like Paul said, her comment was adding that third profile.
Oh, okay.
do you have a planting plan? A real planting plan, not just this saying mitigation.
Yeah, we do.
What
It was
kind of
prepared by
plan?
Hawk Landscape.
All right, because I'm not finding it in my stuff, that's all.
Jen sent it out to us,
Um,
I
And I
think.
just missed it. Bad me, I'm bad.
And this is another one where the limit of work goes
Right,
all the way
yeah,
to the
I know that.
to the bank.
Okay.
Well,
I-
they need that to add the plantings though.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
Can there
just,
be another one? Can there be one closer for the house and then do the plantings later?
What planting? The
Well, here.
mitigation ones?
Yeah.
yes.
Uh,
The problem that I'm having is when we put these things up and we say the limit of work is way out at the coastal bank, then the whole site gets used as a construction site and it puts all that construction material right up on the edge of the coastal bank. So it'd be like if that were another resource area that we were more concerned about, there's no way that we would say it's okay to put erosion control right on the edge of a wetland and let them work to that. Is that a fair analogy?
Mhm.
yes. And Can I say something?
Sure.
Please.
Okay, this is my feeling on mitigation on all, I don't want to ever run into another Collier Ave, which has never been resolved as far as I'm concerned. What they did out there, I would like a stipulation on all these properties that have the coastal bank and everything, the mitigation has to be done first before they start construction on these houses, to make sure a mitigation gets in properly. That would also help keeping them away from the coastal bank with the actual construction, because they should want to protect the plantings. I am just very upset with some of the places where the plantings never ever get done.
So just having finished
Yeah.
working with the planning board with the stormwater, they require a bond. They look at the value of what's supposed to be planted. It creates another whole situation
Well,
that we
we've
have to
gotta do
deal with,
something.
but if we have enough money in, say, a bond that people can't ignore it, then because planting all that out ahead of time can be a nightmare during construction. Typically, you're doing your landscape as you're kind of pulling away pennies, so I'm not sure.
Oh, I
I
understand
mean,
that, but I
if we were
also
if we were
want-
talking about creating a wetland or something, we could say we want that to start sooner than later, but I'm not sure planting that out is, but there has to, you're right, too many times Jen is dealing with a couple now that, never got done. Houses are built and we just,
Or they put the wrong type of plants in.
now we're fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I just thought it might help to keep them away from the coastal bank too.
Sure.
But we've got to make sure we do something in the orders of all these about
Okay. But
a bond, I
so I'm
guess.
not sure who I've gotten to so far. So it was yourself and Brendan, right? Eric?
Yeah, I've been babbling about it, but haven't said much.
Oh, sorry.
No,
Was it your
that's-
turn?
No, I keep going. Keep
All
going.
right, Eric?
I'm
And the other person, Deb, you reviewed this before, so I guess I'd like to get some input as well. Maybe Deb could go first,
I remember it.
if you don't mind.
Okay.
Do you want me to go, Doug, or
Yeah,
are you ready?
Yeah, well, no, let me, I needed to I apologize, but I had to remember all this stuff. So what I needed to do is go back and find the original site because it doesn't really, it's shaded, it's on this plan, but it's, obviously it's shaded back so you can see what's being proposed. But the proximity of the pool that, to Brendan's point,
Yeah.
it was bothering me too, when we were just the previous applicant was saying, can't you rotate that house a little bit and get it out of there? And, but I'm looking, the existing house was that far into it. It's not brand new construction, and they're removing a huge circular portion of the driveway that exists in there now. That is being removed as part of this project. So I had to remember that. I don't know if it's hard to see that on this plan because it's, very light line work to help what's proposed pop out, but you can kind of see the hatched line in there where the existing house goes all the way up to where the proposed pool was. There was a walkway there. And I was just looking on Google Earth and you can see this, a paved driveway and everything. So there is some effort in this project, at least to remove a lot of material that's in the 50 and 100 currently. So that now I just needed to restate that and get myself reminded, but I didn't know if anyone else remembered that part too. So that's all I had to say.
That's helpful. Thank you. Yeah, Deb, if you were going to comment at this time, that'd be great.
Sure. So we were asked to review the coastal bank delineation on this, and as stated, we asked for just an extra section so that we made sure that we fully define the coastal bank on the site. And I think Doug just mentioned what I was going to say with respect to the existing conditions comparison. It's basically a wash. And you can see that in the impervious calcs that they have on their site, it's a 1% increase in impervious surfaces, which is about 50 square feet of increase. So I guess that's the same thing here where, like you were saying, you've got a developed site, you are, and I would call it a wash. The only good thing is your structure, the dwelling structure is now farther back than it was before, although you are replacing it with a pool. So it would be how the commission feels, whether that's an offset or just a wash again with your setbacks. But you do see it. Sorry, I was just going to add one more thing, just so you could see. They do have subsurface dry wells for the roof recharge shown on this plan. So it's doable.
Right. Is this the site that originally we didn't have the coastal bank going the full length of the property?
That was
And
the
then,
previous one.
No,
okay.
that was next door where they were doing an addition a couple years ago.
I thought one of these two projects, they hadn't totally shown the coastal bank, and then we asked them to run that all the way out. Maybe they're just all blending together.
Yeah.
Ah, well, we've,
So for commission members, who else do we,
Eric,
Eric?
Yeah, I think a secondary limit of work is important, especially along these revetments. Because I mean, I've seen plenty of examples of construction sites creeping. We do want to make sure that we are being mindful to the resource areas that construction will be happening within. And like in the last discussion, I think that it's important that we recognize that.
For sure.
I just Paul here again from Morse. I certainly think a kind of a phase one, phase two, if you will, set on the erosion control is possible. It's a little, it's a little tighter on the south end by the pool, but certainly up towards the frontage area of the property, having a stage one erosion control closer to the house just for excavation is feasible.
Thank you. I mean, it looks to me like a pretty aggressive planting plan.
yeah, if it gets in.
Well, we're gonna have to address that, Penny, as a policy from the commission. We can't, I believe, we could, not sure how we would address that at this thing, other than it's in the orders and we don't give a CFC until,
And we'll add monitoring years to the
Yep.
plantings.
But what bothers me, Frank, is a lot of them, they don't care if they ever get a CSC, they're gonna live there. They come back to us 20 years from now when they're, oh, I need a CSC because I'm selling. Well, the work, I mean, so many years have gone by. I don't know. I just have an issue. We've had a lot of problem in the
But-
beach areas.
but that's an enforcement piece though, too. I mean, we could have bonds. We could say, listen, you gotta plant this all out. The people plant it all out. They get their bond back, and then over 10 years, 15 years, to your point, they start encroaching with the lawn and, well, I'm, how do you deal with that? I mean, that could be an issue as well.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm sorry, I want to go back to Deb for a second if she's still here.
Sure.
Just want to be sure that we've covered our points on this site. You think the commission's made aware of all the pieces?
Yep, you have your floodplain shown. And the question is, again, it was sort of like what we were going through on the previous project, looking at the VE zone versus your zone X. You have the same transition on this site. So, looking at your slopes and where they transition. And each of the sections seems reasonable to me. So we have two coastal banks, one at the top of the revetment as shown in the first blue line, or ocean side line. And then you have your second coastal bank as the second one, sort of basically at your toe slope before it levels off into the lawn area. The whole site itself is below elevation 21. And I think that's what we were going with some of the conversation was on our previous project, transitioning between the VE zones and having difficulty here. Well, we have that transition. It's shown in the magenta color. So we're looking through the whole site rather than just along the coastline here. So I looked through all of the existing topography, and you range from basically the top of the coastal bank as it's shown now at elevation 17, and your high side over where the proposed driveway is elevation 19. So the site is extremely flat. It's flatter than the 10-to-1 required. So it doesn't trigger that look for any secondary bank. And I still haven't found a good answer with, if you find that secondary bank on an upgradient side or an abutting property, how do you now, where does your buffers apply? Because there's no buffers to the down toe of your bank. It's usually applied to the up, your change in grade at the upper side of the bank. And in this case, we have a driveway and a house on either side and Peggotty Beach. So I don't see there being that secondary bank within the limits of this property. Other than I'm sorry, any additional bank on this property other than the two that are shown currently.
Okay.
Hopefully I made that clear.
Yeah, I'm following you. Doug,
Okay, great.
anybody have any questions for that? And how that pertains?
Nope.
No, that makes sense.
Oh,
Okay, I think that, Jen, have we cleared the issues for this one? Do you think?
Yep, that he'll do something with the phase 1 and phase 2 limit of work. Otherwise, we have what we need.
Okay. So does anybody want to make a motion on this project?
Make a motion to close.
To have a second,
I'll second that, Doug.
Doug? All in favor? Brendan
Yes.
and Eric
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Great. Thank you. Paul, thank you, Deb.
Yep, thank you
Yep.
very much.
Okay.
We can-
All right, so now back to Lot A to open that and
I get to
continue
open
it.
this one.
Yeah.
On March 18th, 2024, 6 p.m., the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Peter Freiling for work related to constructing a new single-family dwelling, driveway, and landscaping located at Lot A, Booth Hill Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the town website. So we have, we've opened this, but we have a request to continue.
April 1st.
Yes,
April,
April 1st.
There we
I make a
go.
motion, we continue Lot A, Booth Hill Road to April 1st.
That's Penny. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
From Brendan. All in favor, Doug,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. And just for the record, this is a site that Jen and I had a chance to walk out to talk with Art Allen when he was doing this wetlands review. It was an interesting project. So sometime if anybody else has a chance to do that with Art, it's can be eye-opening.
I read his report. That was eye-opening.
Okay. So now we have 0,
And 17.
17 Pond View. So on March 3rd, 18th, 2024 at 6 p.m. the Town Hall. Situate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Situate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Christopher Lyden for work related to proposed shed, patio, and landscape improvements and vegetation management at a single-family dwelling located at 0 and 17 Pondview Avenue, Scituate. If others interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the town website.
Good evening, members of the commission. Brad Holmes from ECR here on behalf of Chris Lyden for his property at 17 Pondview Ave.
Yeah.
We're
Good
moving.
evening.
Good evening. We're moving away from Peggotty Beach and getting closer to Minot.
And Frank's
also-
going to sleep.
Yeah, sorry.
We're also not proposing any construction in the 50-foot buffer, so hopefully a
Yay!
better project. We have 17 Pondview Ave and 0 Pondview Ave. 0 is to the south. The site contains a single-family home at 17 with lawn and landscaping and existing deck. And the property to the south across from Mitchell Ave is an undeveloped lot that merges into Musquashka Pond. It consists of boring vegetative wetland, and unfortunately it's entirely or almost entirely dominated with Phragmites.
Yeah.
What we're proposing is I'll go over 17 Pondview and then we'll merge down to 0 Pondview. What we're proposing at 17 is some work within the 100-foot buffer zone to the bordering vegetative wetland across the street. And the site is entirely within land subject to coastal storm flowage. So what we're proposing is a shed, which is outside the buffer zone in the northern portion of the lot, again, within the flood zone, that would be elevated on posts. We're proposing to re-gravel the existing driveway. We're proposing to put a 15 by 15 paver patio with a walkway leading to it. And we're also proposing another walkway from Pondview Ave to the existing deck. A small generator pad is proposed next to the deck, and we're proposing fencing along the front and sides of the property. It's a well-maintained lawn area. We can certainly leave a height of the fence to allow for small critters, but it's not an area that we're worried about wildlife passage as in this area. I don't think the commission will have too much in the way of questions for the 17 Pondview Ave. So I'll merge over to 0 Pondview Ave. So if we just scroll down a little bit, what we're proposing to do there is to perform vegetation management to do a Phragmites eradication program. We're going to keep it under 5,000 square feet. So we're proposing about 4,950 square feet of Phragmites management. We would stake the area out prior to the start of work. There's a detailed description on the steps for the treatment and cutting of the Phragmites and eventual revegetation with native seed mixes. But this would be something that would be done by a licensed herbicide applicator and someone that's familiar with this type of management. We routinely work with Chris Politan of Land Stewardship. I know the commission knows of and has done a lot of work in Scituate, and this would be a project that we'd be turning over to Chris and his crew. I can get into more discussion, but with that, I'll bring it back to you and see how far you'd like to go from here.
Thank you. Brendan?
I don't have any questions at the moment.
Penny?
No, it's pretty straightforward. The Phragmites, wow, that's a major job they're willing to take on there to try and get rid of that. But no, I think everything on 17 looks fine to me. Thank you.
Doug?
Was Brad tell me if I'm remembering it correctly, but some years ago, there was another project on Musquashit,
Musquashkett.
Pond south of this, quite a ways south of this, that with a similar project, vegetation management. Is that correct?
I've
Yeah.
done a few in
It was
town.
like
That-
396 Hatherley. I think you did. You came before us with one.
Yeah, I don't think I'm a squash kid.
Maybe it
It
was a
was,
different.
yeah, no, it was at the other end of Musquashnet Pond. It was way up towards Man Hill.
Really?
Yeah, Mike Gilligan wound up cutting it all down.
Oh, well, yeah, but that's on him.
That was a little bit more into the buffer of with
Yeah.
BVW
Yeah.
with I think there was some Japanese knotweed in there and some other
Yes.
invasive
Right,
shrubs. I
was
know
just
he
wondering
did
how it
work
was,
on that,
how
but I
it's,
haven't been involved with that since I did the pre-work meeting with Mike Gilligan. I'll have to see where he's at with that.
I was just wondering how it was going, how effective, the plan is. I know it's a slow, methodical process. And you look around there, like it's all around the pond, so you're gonna get to clear this one spot. Then but too bad everybody can't join in. But no, other than that, I don't really have any questions. I was just wondering about the effectiveness of it.
It has to be managed yearly. It's not something that's a one and done in any event.
Okay.
I think another big one, I don't know if you were on the commission or not, but someone took one on like over on Indian Trail or Flagship or one of those roads.
Oh, yes, the end of the flagship. They
Okay.
tried to do their backyard into the marsh. I don't know whatever happened there. But you're right, Florence.
They either say uncle or they run out of money.
I know, yeah.
It is a lot of work, but it would be nice to get rid of some of this stuff. Where am I? Eric, sorry.
So I do have a question on the vegetation management. I've been involved with Phragmites removal in riparian zones up in the city, both along Charles River and the Muddy River. And the conversation always was not necessarily around the removal of the invasive species in those riparian zones, but the removal and replacement of the ecosystem service that the invasive species provide, stabilizing bank, as well as reducing the inflow of sediment into the adjacent water body. I didn't know if that sort of approach was relevant in this case, and if so, is that an addendum that would be added on to the end of this once the eradication of the Phragmites is complete, or how does that work, Brad?
Sure. This site is a little different in the sense that we don't have a slope where we're trying to retain soil from washing into a fast moving water body. This is a flat area to a stagnant pond, but we certainly don't want to have exposed soils and potential for sediment entering the Squashka pond. So what is, if you get a chance to look at the narrative, we do have a year by year approach. So the first year is mainly the treatment and cutting of it, and then the follow-up management events. And then there's a seed, we would use native seed mixes to bring back the area, and there would be probably an ongoing cutting event at the end of the growing seasons to kind of maintain the area as best we can from Phragmites dominating again. It's going to be on either side, or it is on either side of the site, so it's not something that can be left. Well, it could be left, but it will just grow back in and it will defeat the purpose of the project. But if we can get a foothold here, maybe other people in the neighborhood will join in, and we can try to improve the conditions around the pond.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Brad. I missed that line about the supplemental planting using the herbaceous seed mix. So I appreciate you clarifying that. Thank you.
Sure. Do we have anybody
Did I miss anybody or anyone in the audience?
No,
Okay, I'll take a motion on this one.
I make a motion to close.
That's Penny. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Um, I'll take Doug on that one. Sorry, Eric. All in favor, Brendan,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank
Good
you,
night.
Brad. Have a good night. 165 Summer Street. On March 3rd, March 18th, 2024, the 6 p.m. meeting, Scituate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Adams Equity Partners LLC for determination of applicability the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands bylaws for activities related to a septic repair at a single-family dwelling at location 165 Summer Street. Scituate, abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the website. And who do we have?
We have Paul. Are you unmuted?
Yep. Yeah, I'm here. So just again, for the record, my name is Paul Gunn. I'm a design engineer at Morse Engineering here tonight for the to represent the applicant for the RDA at 165 Summer Street. The site is currently developed as a residential single-family dwelling with an associated gravel driveway and a mixture of lawn and wooded areas. The property abuts other single-family residential lots and has frontage on Summer Street to the west. The site generally slopes towards an existing bordering vegetated wetland on site that was delineated by John Zimmer in November of 2023. The property is not located near any certified or potential vernal pools, protected habitats, or other resource areas. The dwelling in question is currently served by a cesspool that is in a state of failure, so the applicant is requesting to upgrade to a newer septic system. A portion of this work, including the pump chamber and the leach field, would be located within the 100-foot buffer to the BVW, but no work is proposed within the 50-foot no disturb buffer zone. An erosion control barrier has been placed down gradient to prevent any sedimentation into the resource area. In post-construction, all disturbed areas are going to be stabilized with loam and seed. I believe that's all I have. I'll turn it back to the commission. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Brendan, what are your thoughts on this one?
It seems to me to be an improvement. I guess that's all I really have to say.
All right. Doug?
Not much. I noticed that you did dig a couple test pits in the backyard. All the material looks like a pretty slow perk rate. Does it just not fit back there?
Yeah, so we did perk trying to keep it out of the 100. It could theoretically fit, but not without preventing some serious drainage issues to the foundation. I think even if you use a thinner profile system, you end up with a mound either equivalent to or above the top of foundation, with very little room to direct that drainage away from the house. So to avoid any ponding issues, that's why we opted for the front yard perks.
Yeah. Well, yeah, probably be a cleaner install too. I noticed is there two lines coming out? What was there an old
there's an old laundry
pit. Oh God.
Yeah, we're not quite sure where it is. We just know it leaves from that corner of the house.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely be an improvement. It's just a shame you have to pump it, but there you go. All right, no questions.
Penny?
I'm all set, thank you.
Eric?
Yeah, no comment.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the audience for this one?
Nope, no hands raised.
So I did visit the site. There's actually a brand new septic system on the other side of this that's for a back lot. It's kind of a funny lot, but I think also if it went in the back, you'd be removing more trees. Right now, you're sort of putting it in a lawn area.
Good point.
With less trees. It's almost in Norwell. I think the vent pipe is in Norwell.
Or they can have it.
Yeah.
No, I think,
Oh, good.
yeah. Yep. I'd be surprised if they ran that line around though. Hopefully someone will figure out that they can just run that line inside the house.
Oh, instead of around the back or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, just replumb it inside.
Yep. But well, hopefully someone will think about that. Okay.
I'll make a motion for
Well,
next.
so this one not accepting any of the lines.
No, no. You're right, Jen.
Yeah, there's wetlands lines going all over the place there.
No. We're just accepting a new septic. I make a motion for -3, please.
Okay.
I'll
And a
second that.
second on that was Brendan. All in favor, Doug,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Great. 91 and vinyl on March 18th, during the 6 p.m. meeting, Situate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Lennox Realty Trust for a determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Situate Wetlands bylaws for activity related to clearing an area and demo of a single-family dwelling at location 91 and Vinyl Road. Situate abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the town website.
And Paul
Hi
should
there.
still be on. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So just once again, for the record, Paul Gunn, design engineer at Morse Engineering, here tonight to represent the applicant for the RDA at 91 and Vinyl Road. So this site is currently developed as a residential single-family dwelling with an associated gravel driveway, shed, and a mixture of lawn and wooded areas. The property abuts other single-family residential lots and has frontage on Ann Vinyl Road to the north, as well as a small portion on Pleasant Street to the northeast. The site generally slopes to the west towards an existing bordering vegetated wetland that was delineated by John Zimmer in May of 2023. The property is not located in near any certified or potential vernal pools, protected habitats, or other resource areas. As it currently stands, the existing dwelling is in a very poor, dilapidated condition. So the applicant is proposing the demolition of the dwelling and the shed, as well as the removal of quite a bit of accumulated trash and debris within the yard. A portion of this work would be located within the 100-foot buffer, though nothing's proposed within the 50-foot buffer. A siltation fence is proposed as an erosion control at the limit of work to prevent any sedimentation into the resource area. And then once the dwelling has been removed and any associated debris or accumulated trash on the site, disturbed areas would be stabilized with loam and seed.
Okay. Eric, you want to go first on this one?
This is interesting.
Sure. Just looking at the proposed limit of tree and brush clearing, I didn't notice anything, but is there any sort of indication on volume of material that be removed?
I don't have that on hand. I'd have to get that, but I mean, essentially that's a very conservative tree line. Any clearing here is associated just with, efficient removal of the dwelling and any debris that comes from the demolition. All they're, hoping to do really is just clean up the site and remove the house for now.
And for
That's it.
Brendan?
I think I'm okay.
Penny?
Yeah, I just have a question. Are they coming back to put a house in?
You can pretty much guarantee that.
No,
That is
why
their-
no? I'm surprised
so-
they didn't do it all at once.
Yeah, so their intention is to replace it with a new house, which they'd come back with a full notice of intent, most likely, I would presume.
Yeah.
But I think they're still looking at their options. And the house is, it's essentially falling apart. So
Oh, I
they're-
know. Well,
they're hoping
tell them an option, real good one would be get out of the 50 with the house this time, move it over. But no, I don't have any problem with what they want to do today. I might later. Thank you.
Doug?
No, I'm, this is an R2 zone,
I believe so,
Um,
yes.
so 20,000 square foot. lot.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's
it's,
gonna blow down.
I think there'll be
Yeah,
more
so
than one.
I
You'll be looking
say
at more
there's
than
gonna
one
be more,
house.
there's gonna be more than one people.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a Form A and ahead of this, but yeah, I have no problem with what they're proposing at all.
Okay, do we have anybody in the audience for that one?
No,
So I think, you know, to Eric's point, when I looked at it, you know, there is a clearing area there. It's just been abandoned for so long that everything's really grown up right around the house and the shed. And so that was a question we had back before, and they're saying that they're just gonna stick to the tree line. Right now, there's a really big oak tree that blew over at the back of that property. I just
Really?
rode
Oh.
by today, something that's probably been down for a little bit, but
Yeah.
it's just been sitting for so long empty. So do we have, I think I asked anybody in the audience, Jen, any other comments other than
nope,
what-
just wetland line.
we're not gonna accept that wetlands line?
No, they'll, when they come back, they'll.
Yep.
Okay, I make a motion for -3.
Motion from Penny. Do we have a second?
Second.
From Doug. All in favor, Brendan,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Will.
Yeah.
Have a good evening.
You too. On March 18th, during the 6 p.m. meeting, Situate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Robert Nielsen for a determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Situate Wetlands bylaws for activity related to a new footing for rebuilding existing deck at a dwelling located at 63 Glades Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the town website.
And we have Robert Nielsen.
Hello, can you hear me?
We got you. Good evening.
Guys, my name is Robert Nielsen and I represent my homeowner, Michael, and AJN Construction. And we would like to propose a new deck in the existing decks, pretty much the same footprint. Because there's a driveway up against the deck, we can't go any wider, but we would like to extend the width of the deck by about 4 to 6 feet. So there's 3 footings involved, and yeah, it's a pretty simple deck, cut and dry.
Right, thank you.
You get to the stairs? Oh,
There you go.
Here we go.
he ran away.
Doug,
No questions at all.
okay. Penny,
No, it looks very good, very good.
Brendan,
Yeah, I have no questions.
Eric.
No comment.
Why couldn't Zero Crescent be as simple?
I know. Oh.
Jen?
Nope.
All right. Well, I'll take a motion.
I make
Go ahead,
a
Penny.
motion for a -3. We're talking over each other. That's my fault, Frank.
So
I'm
motion
bad.
from Penny. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Brendan, all in favor, Doug,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Great. Thank you very much. Good evening.
Thank you.
So we are down to a couple of orders of conditions.
Yep. I make
Penny,
a motion, we accept the orders of conditions for Lot 3, Captain Pierce, and 192 Stockbridge, as written on both.
do we have a second or discussion from anybody?
I'll second it.
Second from Doug. Anybody else? Any comments? All in favor? Brendan
Yes.
and Eric
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Great.
Okay, and then we have the minutes of January 29th. accept them as written, please.
That's a motion from Penny,
I second.
second from Eric. All in favor, Doug,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have any?
Appleton Trail?
So yeah, Appleton Trail, actually it's Eric has been working with a couple of the folks that are out there. And what do they say, Eric? The scouts are gonna go this coming weekend?
That's correct. The 23rd, weather permitting, the Cohasset Scouts will be out.
Cohasset, huh?
And they are going to be, according to Sally, concentrating on the space adjacent to the fenced garden. And they've been instructed to remove fallen posts, the plastic netting that has been entangled in the vegetative overgrowth in that area, and cut multiflora rose and bittersweet to the best of their ability. We'll see how that all pans out. That multiflora is pretty aggressive and gnarly stuff, so I wouldn't be surprised if they don't get to all of that. But in addition to the scouts volunteering their time and taking care of some of that work, Frank and I have discussed that Leo would be in there to do some mowing with a ground person to help mitigate any other plastic fencing that was missed or left behind by the scouts. We just want to reduce the amount of small plastics as much as possible. Now, unfortunately, because of how overgrown that area is, I don't anticipate 100%, you know, uh, you know, uh, success rate on that. I would like to think, though, that having that ground person and assisting Leo is going to significantly reduce any chewed up plastic fencing, which is definitely what we want. One thing that Frank and I had discussed was the silage mat. And Frank, I did not hear back from Ken, and we haven't heard back from Ken on any of the correspondence really via email, which is unfortunate because he does have some good ideas, and I'd like to get his input on some of the stuff that we're doing moving forward. So I might see about getting his phone number and reaching out to him that way. And I did actually want to check in, Frank, on that trailer for the debris. Was that something that you still wanted to provide, or is that something that
I'll over the next few days, I'll drop off a dump trailer up there that way the scouts can load up whatever. And I forget if you mentioned it to me or somebody else did, but the thought that maybe we could at least stockpile the 4x4 posts. If we thought they might be useful, I don't know, either in an elevated bed or I don't know, but it just seemed a shame to throw them all out at this stage.
I agree. I know that Sally had mentioned something about being concerned with the paint that's on there, but I can't imagine that those are old enough to have lead paint. I mean,
No.
that's
No.
not something that I would be concerned about. And if that was her concern, then yeah, we should move forward in preserving as much of the material as possible to be reused at the site.
No, I would think that it's only in the last 15 years that was done. So lead paint was long gone. And who knows, somebody might want to box in something or delineate an area or something like that. I would think that might be something they'd find useful. Do you think eventually those couple of enclosures for the pigs, I guess there was a thought that maybe at least one of them could be saved and sort of dragged around for putting some tools or some basic stuff in there, and then we'll kind of sort that out, and then maybe the others could get removed or whatever.
I think that preserving as many as possible for equipment storage, or even, if there's any products that, members of the community garden as that gets built out, want to keep dry, whether that's, organic, soil amendments, or whatever. I think that there's definitely a case to be made to try and preserve as much of that infrastructure as possible without trying to introduce anything new. And again, I think this is a question that I believe Ken would have decent input on. So it would be nice to get these parties all involved in the conversation instead of just having Sally, because she is very quick to email back, which is nice. But I'd like a few more.
Yeah, we want some team approach there would be good. I just forwarded you, Ken, the number that I have for Ken. So.
Oh, yep. Thank you.
Hopefully, he's picked up before. I bet he's starting to get into a busier season, and I know he's got a young family. So, hopefully, you can get some comment from him, and we can move forward on that when we know we're satisfied.
Yeah.
Great. Super. Be nice to see that utilized a little bit. Once it gets some traction, I'm sure it'll be even better.
Yeah, especially with all the eyes up there,
Yep.
just utilizing the trails. And I think even with Sally's maple syrup demonstration, a lot more eyes were up there, a few weekends ago for that. And I heard it was a pretty good turnout up there. So even someone from Weston and Sampson that I know ended up attending that.
Oh, cool.
And she was just from Foxborough and came over. So that was pretty neat.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Frank?
Yes, Penny. Thank you, Eric.
A question. No, I was gonna ask the question of Eric and now I forgot what it was. Oh, man, I'm brain dead. It was about the garden. Oh, I know. Do you think, Eric, you can get somebody out there to give you an estimate for a well? Because if you want to come to CPC for that money, you have to have an application in by July 1st. So I really think we should try and get somebody out there as quickly as possible, Frank.
Okay.
Part of the problem with getting an estimate on that, though, at this point, I think, and Frank, you and I discussed this on site, was just the electric and how we're going to power it and the location. Getting an estimate for these wells is pretty challenging to nail the well guys down, because it's all about, deep drilled, and they can't come out there and say, yeah, it's like certainly going to be 200 feet, 300 feet, God forbid 400 or 500 feet, because it's charged by the foot.
I think it's going to be 10 feet.
Let's go through bedrock. That's the problem with these artesian wells.
Oh, yeah, well, that's true too. But all right, but I just want you aware.
Yeah, that's a good point,
I appreciate
Penny.
it.
Funding is there, but you have to apply for it, and the
Yeah.
deadline is July 1st.
We gotta come up with a scope.
Yeah.
And think about a couple of different options.
Okay.
But maybe we could. I know the good part with CPC is if we sort of get a range that we could realistically come forward. What I've learned in the past is make sure we get enough money so we don't have to come back.
Yes, and I was also told, try not to have it too narrow. Leave yourself a little open edge there when
Yep.
you're asking for funds. All right?
Yep.
Because we've run into, you know what we ran into. and we
Sure.
gotta get back, and it's just unfortunate. They'd love to have us use it, but we can't.
Okay.
So
And then okay, thanks, Penny. And thanks for that. We'll talk some more about that one.
yeah, okay.
And then just we don't have to do this tonight, but Jen and I were talking, and we'd like to try to maybe organize a time to get members together for an informal meeting, just so we can kind of discuss a bunch of things. Last time we did it was up at Mount Hope, just in the evening. Tuesday night's a good for Jen. She can be at work and not be in the office.
Mhm,
Uh,
mhm.
so we're looking at maybe May 13th.
Well, the 14th is a Tuesday,
14th.
but
I'm
that,
sorry.
but at least that week, because it's a week between meetings.
So
Okay.
if we'll should get an email out and get a consensus if that works for folks. So that we'd have a chance to talk a little bit more about process and or whatever we want to do. Anything else from anybody before we sign off? It is 9 o'clock. We had some
Should,
tough.
should
Go
we
ahead.
like pencil that in on my calendar? Because
Yeah.
it
Sure.
fills up awful quickly.
Tuesday,
So-
May 14th.
At like 4 o'clock or something, or
I
Probably a
don't
little
know.
later.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
because daylight, Frank, like,
I'll make sure we have something to dine on. How's that?
yeah, it was
It's
good
like
pizza last time.
6,
Yeah.
yeah, 6 or later.
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. I mean, Doug, I know early bird specials for the seniors, but for Christ's sake, 4 o'clock.
I'm trying to get out of work, Frank.
Oh, you can come at 4. All right.
I'll be there too.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, I'll
I
make
do-
a motion. I
But
think
thank-
we're,
Oh, just,
Go ahead.
I have
Oh.
one quick question. I'm sorry. Not to, I know everyone
Oh.
wants to get going, but I did have a lingering thought on the beach inquiry from 2 months ago, I think it was, on the kayak racks, I think it was, or the
Oh, yeah.
boat at the boat launch. I just didn't know if there was any update on that. I just was more of a curiosity. We don't have to get into anything, but I just have been wondering.
No, we
about
never
that.
really pursued that one any further. Let's try to circle back to we've had so many
Yeah.
so many things flying through the air right
No,
now.
I
But
know.
we'll,
Yeah,
we'll,
like I said, I don't want to add to anything tonight, but I just
You haven't missed anything.
but
Okay.
this is like Jen's first meeting as a official
Hmm.
agent. Did
Yay.
it seem
With
any
a
very
camera.
with a camera?
Wow.
you're on.
No snacking.
No, well, like Frank does, he shuts himself off.
That's too many buttons to manage. I got
Wait,
2 screens going on right
well,
now.
I thought given a couple of these hearings tonight, I thought we did fairly well with them. So,
I'm impressed you're done by 9.
well, that's good. All right.
All right,
It says
everybody. I'll make
8:58 on the screen over here. Come on, Penny.
All right, I make a motion, we adjourn.
Do you have
There
a
it is.
second?
Second.
I'll second that.
Well, Doug's quick to get out of here. That's for sure.
Is Doug left?
Brendan,
Oh, like-
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Thanks so much. Have a good night.
Good night,
Good night,
everybody.